But what I'm going to talk to you about, I guess, is innovation. And I was asked yesterday just to pay special attention to the subject of fintech. So when you take a look at the world, there are effectively two enemies in day-to-day life. One is effort, and the other is paper and paperwork. And the reason paper is an enemy is that nobody likes paperwork. So take, for example, Encyclopedia Britannica. It was a company that was formed 250 years ago. In 1990, it sold about 120,000 editions. It was its greatest year's sale. It took 222 years to hit its peak of sales. A couple of years later, 10 years later, 120,000 encyclopedia sales had gone down to 8,000. And a couple of years later, the print edition was bust. And that is a fact I found out on Wikipedia, which is the very disruptor that destroyed Encyclopedia Britannica. So if we cut over to Kodak as another example of paper being an enemy, Kodak at its height employed 117,000 people, and in 1998 basically distributed 85% of the world's photographic paper. It was a massive employer, huge. So there was paperwork, if you like, high quality paper from Kodak in 1998, 117,000 employees. I think in the year I have it here, in the year 2011, the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. In other words, it had gone bust too. So what we're looking at, if you think of what those two companies provided, which is Encyclopedia Britannica and Kodak, they provided high utility paper. They provided paper that should provide value throughout your whole life, sit on a shelf or in a drawer. And yet, they were taken down by technology, either the digital camera or by an online encyclopedia. So if you take in our lives, we are ready to rid ourselves of high quality, high yield paper. Every other thing that has paper is ready to be disrupted. So when you look at fintech, there are multiple aspects of the arena that can be disrupted. In fact, everything. So when you hand somebody a note to pay for something, it's so old world. They were doing it 200 years ago. Every single aspect of the fintech environment is ready to be innovated. And I read a very interesting piece recently, and it was that if we remove effort, so if the first enemy is paper, because paper equals effort, you can start to think of the world differently. And there was a piece I read recently that said that if there was a red button in every room in your home, and every time you pressed it, you saved €10 straight out of your savings account, saved €10, but you couldn't touch it for 7 or 10 years, you would save thousands and thousands a year. You know that the pain of saving a tenner is the same whether you go in and do it at a bank account, or sorry, at a bank branch, or if you press the red button in your kitchen. The effect is different, is the same, but the effort is zero. So the best companies are out there to innovate to zero, which basically means to take all the effort and pain down to nothing. So no matter where you work, or no matter what you've done, you're biased by the way it's been done until now. And basically, you should look at your job. I mean, if you have a kind of an entrepreneurial leaning and you're looking for something, you already have done enough study to know what you need to fix. Because everything is broken. Absolutely everything. Nothing works well. And we think it does because all we've got is a hindsight mirror. We look and we go, yeah, compared to 5, 10 years ago, we're doing much better now. We're not. Everything is broken. No matter what you do, you know could be made better. So basically, you know, you may have heard of this kind of little anecdote, which is Facebook is the world's biggest media company, yet owns no media. Airbnb is the world's biggest provider of beds, or hotel provider, and doesn't own a single bed. Uber is the world's biggest cab or taxi company and doesn't own a single car. And when you think about that, these businesses, the sharing generation, taking a resource that exists over there and is redundant and sending it over to the other side of the room where people need it, is the evolution of the world. The fact that every home in this city probably owns a hammer is absolutely ludicrous, because I would imagine there's less than a total of 12 hours of domestic hammering done in Dublin. I made that fact up. I don't know, it could be hundreds of hours, but we don't all need a hammer. The thing is, the sharing generation is the way we're moving. If you look at fintech, and dive deeper. You know, if the central banking system, the world's banking systems, is the motherboard, we have a lot of things we can build on top of that motherboard. And there's a lot of legacy systems and paperwork, and whether it's deep into the plumbing of Wall Street that you're going, or right onto the surface level, there is somewhere for you to innovate. It's right in front of you, but you have to look at things differently. Absolutely everything is broken. You look at it, I mean, everything bothers me. You walk to a door, you wonder, why is there a handle on this door? You go to a seat, why do I have to sit at the same height as everybody else? You know, there's effort everywhere. We just don't see it anymore. So basically, that's my rant, chapter 2. Excuse me. So we have a business, RubyCoin. There's 10 of us. We take our values very seriously and our culture very seriously. And I think a great business starts with culture. And everyone in the business today is somebody who believes in what we're doing. Everyone in the business is out to disrupt. And so what we took a look at as a business is basically, what does the customer see? Because I spoke to a guy yesterday, a fund manager, highly intelligent, real nice guy, who was trying to explain something he wanted to collaborate with me on. And I couldn't understand him. I did not know what he was saying to me. He was so involved in the plumbing of Wall Street. And I asked him to take a view through the customer's eyes. What would we say to a customer about this specific product? And you know, we took a few attempts at it. And I asked him, would he mind emailing it to me? Because I couldn't understand. The best businesses look at what they do through the eyes of a customer. So RubyCoin started by looking through the eyes of a customer. And in the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ, the two main US stock exchanges, there's about 7,000 listed companies. That's a lot of businesses. Now, there's no doubt that if you went to a restaurant, a chef could cook 1,000 different meals, but what that chef has done is decided to shortlist what he believes are the best things for you to eat. And in RubyCoin, we did the same. We said, every other app out there will allow you get information or buy up to 7,000 companies. But that's too much choice. Like, we've all been in a restaurant with a menu that's that deep, and you end up just asking the waiter what's good. So we've decided what's good. And what we mean by that is, we've only shortlisted 40 companies. They're brands you've heard of, with a short explanation of what they do, but they weren't picked without rhyme or reason. We've put a lot of research and effort and backtesting into making sure we only show our consumers, our users, the best companies that they should buy and hold for the long term. And people appreciate that, because people hate decision, people hate effort, people hate paperwork. There's no paperwork involved in the journey of creating wealth in RubyCoin, which is, you know, you would hope so as an app-based business. So in essence, if you look at the learnings we took from Halo as a business, pretty much everyone here has seen or used Halo. There's only one button in Halo. You want a cab, you open Halo, you press the yellow button, and broadly speaking, a taxi arrives. With RubyCoin, you open the Invest by RubyCoin, you find a business you believe in, and you click Buy Now, and you follow your nose. So effort is the enemy. Paperwork is the enemy. And we're here together at this moment in time to make everything a little bit better. And that's the essence of where we're going in RubyCoin. I have a story about the power of marketing, and it's an unusual story. How long have I got left? About. Oh, they've left me to it. Good. So this is an unusual story. I haven't told anyone before, and it's a little bit shocking. And it was my first lesson in the power of word-of-mouth marketing. In 1988, I was sent to Maine by my folks to have a nice time with my cousins and my mom's brother. And Maine is, as I'm sure you know, Northeast America, forested, lakey countryside. And one weekend, I was 13 years old. We went off to a log cabin way up in the countryside of the countryside. And I stayed in effectively a split-level barn, a huge big barn as big as this room, with my cousins and family up on the upper mezzanine. On the lower floor, there was a whole bunch of boxes, which for a 13-year-old is a very curious affair. They all were stacked neatly, and we had lots of fun out on boats and stuff during the day, but these boxes were bothering me. So one evening, whenever my family, my cousins were asleep, I went down to look to see what were in the boxes. Looked through one at a time, nothing of interest, a bunch of old clothes, some antiques. I eventually opened one box, and my heart leapt with joy. my breath stopped. I knew I had hit the ultimate treasure. It was full to the brim with Playboy magazines. And without any regard for law or social conscience, I had immediately decided the fate of these magazines. They were coming home to Ireland with me. Now, the problem when you're sent off to America and your mom packs your bag is it's full. You're not going to be doing any shopping. You're 13. And I had this many Playboys and a bag about this size. So I had a simple choice: get rid of the clothes. So the clothes, I disposed of the clothes. I disposed of a new pair of shoes, probably the only thing I really got in trouble for. And I filled the bag with the Playboy magazines. And somehow I managed to get my way through another 4 or 5 weeks in America with the clothes on my back and a bag full of soft porn. So I was very nervous bringing these magazines home because I didn't know if it was against the law. And the weight of the bag was a telling factor when anyone helped me. But when I got back to Dublin, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to sell them because in school, Art School Rish Marino, Catholic boys' school, there was a market, believe me. And I told one person, that I brought home about 22 Playboy magazines from America. And I also said, I'm going to bring them in tomorrow and sell them. There was about 400 angry boys waiting for me the next day. And when I arrived in, my bag was heavy. I was ready to sell these Playboys. And I didn't need to do any marketing. There was an army waiting for me. They were taken off me. I didn't get to make any sales. But my conclusion at this stage of my life was, by telling one person about a great product that everybody wants, it multiplies forward. And we've all seen the viral effect of the great big business of today. And what we've taken at Rubycoin as a lesson now is that we want people to tell each other about what we do. And the only way you can do that is by building something brilliant, something that creates desire, something that looks and acts magnificently. And while I don't expect Rubycoin to ever have the viral coefficient of a bunch of Playboy magazines in a boys' school when they're all teens, I certainly expect it to have a word-of-mouth referral. And the reason Apple have ranked us #1 is because our NPS, Net Promoter Score, is so high, because for every download we pay for, more downloads come for free. And that's a very important factor for our business. And in no time at all, we saw, and when I mean no time, since a few weeks ago, January, we've seen our user base go from a couple of hundred to 100,000, and it's growing, and we have to keep that momentum there. And that's by building something with no effort, with no paperwork, that acts and looks beautifully and always is reliable. So in conclusion, download, invest by Rubycoin. Build a business that people want. You can innovate anything at all. No matter what you've done in your life, it's ready to be innovated. It's ready to be made more efficient. And I guess the best start is to look at it like a child, because children don't see obstacles, and go for it. So I don't know how much more time I've got, but I ain't got much more to say. So, thank you very much for listening. Rubycoin is based in Dublin, New York. We have 10 people in New York and a square root of 0. We have 10 people in Dublin and a square root of 0 in New York at the moment, but we have an office that very soon will be filling up. Drop me a line if you ever want to meet, and thank you for listening.